of Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Director, it seems to me that some people should not have power. I don't care how smart they are. I don't care how experienced they are. They just don't have enough maturity or morality or ethics to exercise power. And I am talking, of course, about your predecessor. You have been a significant improvement. Unlike my experience with you, and what I've observed is that unlike your predecessor, you're not egomaniacal, and you're not egocentric, and you're not a self-aggrandizer. You don't run around like your predecessor going, look at me, look at me. You don't leak to the press like the Titanic. And I know that's a low bar, but I appreciate it. You talk a lot about 38,000 women and men in the FBI, the vast majority of whom do an extraordinary job, and I agree with that. Most of those women and men that you're talking about are in your field offices. I'm not saying there aren't some in the Washington office. But the problems we've had with the FBI over the past decade, you've alluded to them, have come primarily out of the Washington office. I listened carefully to your recitation of your efforts to clean that up. But I think most fair-minded Americans still wonder if there has been real accountability in all cases. And that's the spirit in which I'm going to ask you these questions. Who made the decision at the FBI to raid Mar-a-Lago for those documents?
Well, I'm not sure there's a specific person that made the decision. It was the investigative team that was on that investigation, working with the prosecutors on the case.
Why didn't you just do a consent to search and avoid all the drama?
Senator John Kennedy has never been one to hold back his words. In a gripping Senate exchange, Kennedy sharply questioned the FBI director, raising concerns about accountability, power, and one of the most controversial moments in recent history, the raid on Mar-a-Lago. This fiery exchange has left Americans divided, and today, we break it all down. Kennedy began by painting a stark picture of what he sees as the dangers of unchecked power. He drew a sharp contrast between the current FBI director and his predecessor, accusing the former of arrogance, leaks, and a lack of ethics. But beneath the sharp rhetoric lay a deeper question: has the FBI truly restored public trust? Kennedy praised the hard-working men and women across FBI field offices nationwide, but he made it clear that the issues, in his view, stem from Washington itself. For Kennedy, the heart of the problem lies not with rank-and-file agents, but with the leadership at the very top. And then came the moment that drew the nation's attention. Kennedy demanded answers. Who authorized the FBI raid on former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate? The director responded carefully, saying it was an investigative team working with prosecutors, not a single individual who made that call. Kennedy pressed harder, asking why the FBI didn't simply request a consent search to avoid the political firestorm. The director, cautious with his words, pointed to the court filings documents that outlined repeated attempts at cooperation, alleged obstruction of justice, and ultimately, the justification for a full search warrant. This Senate exchange captures the growing tension between political oversight and federal law enforcement. Kennedy's fiery words echo the concerns of millions of Americans who question whether accountability truly exists.
Drama.
Well,
But whoever made the decision.
yeah. Well, let me try it this way. because obviously we are talking now about not just an ongoing investigation, that's not just an ongoing investigation that's being led by a special counsel, but an ongoing investigation being led by a special counsel that's in front of a court with likely very strong views about what it is I can say publicly, which gets at some of your gracious comments about public commentary about cases. But I think if you, in that particular instance, if you look at the affidavit in support of the search warrant, and more importantly, the pleadings that were filed by the prosecutors in the case, they lay out in a very detailed way all the efforts that were made to ensure compliance short of proceeding to a search, as well as now has been charged, actual obstruction of justice. And so, in my experience, again, speaking more generally now, both as a line prosecutor and now as FBI director, when it comes to obtaining classified information, retrieving it, we typically pursue the least intrusive means possible, but if those don't work, and certainly if there's obstruction of justice, which in this case, as found by a probable cause standard by the judge, then it's pretty typical to resort to a search warrant.
Power. Whether you see the A-Lago raid as justified or politically driven, one thing is clear: this debate is far from over. Tell us what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth coverage of America's most pressing political moments.